Hi, we're in the next part now, and I'm still busy explaining this thing, and I'm looking at the time, and I'm going to be told to go and take a shower in a minute, but the water was cold anyway. I'm busy trying to explain to you, guys, the issue, just the epidemic of insanity that is going on, Lana. In the previous part, please go check it out. These men who manipulate ecosystems of women to make sure that they're theirs, and they've got these bad rap sheets, but they're trying to bring women into their lives that are too girthy, too thick, and so spiritually strong that they've waited on the Lord patiently for literally a decade, years, 5, 6, 7 years. 5 years, these women have been waiting on the Lord, and these guys will just rock up and slip rings on their fingers with former wives, still rolling these around in these streets, making them accept, because my goodness, my biological clock is ticking. But they do that by freezing life conditions around the woman. Literally, you could have 10,000 people around you talking to you, but nobody actually really truly cares for you. Nobody's actually having your back. Your mother is not actually guarding your heart and your interest as a daughter. Your dad could not care less as long as he's getting some money for you. Like, just these irresponsible parents. And I made mention of that with Storisa Nandipa, with the dad, and the transactions conducted between him and Thabo Bester. They lull parents to sleep. They lull communities that are around women, generally protecting women, to sleep, so that these women are living literally in a dry, arid, cold, frozen, and Arctic environment that no longer has the former love that they knew, such that these men become like they're rescuers. Like, they become the Cinderellas of the ecosystem, and these men are there to take them and give them a little bit more affection. But even then, like with the analogy I made at the very beginning, a pipette worth of water on your tongue, not so much quenching the thirst of love that you have. They put you in a position to have no other option. A man that you would never consider. If your world was teeming at the folds, bustling with adoration from all different kinds of spheres, your uncle loves to buy you presents on your birthday. Your dad will not have anybody looking at you with a side eye before he will punch the living daylights out of them. You've got that level of protection around you, and they take it away, they freeze it, and they are capitalizing on the fact that the world is so cold. Like I said, 2 Timothy 3, that is the general moral turpitude of the earth. People are lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud. They've got all these moral character flaws, and so dive on that horse, exploit it, and take a gorgeous girl that doesn't belong to you. At the end of the world, when everybody is so mean, and you're gonna go and bring a freezing damsel into your little hut, you're gonna bring a freezing damsel into an environment that is not appropriate for her. You're gonna bring a freezing damsel into a downgrade of monumental proportions and expect that her father is not going to have some bones to pick with that. Herein lies the kicker of this dream. I told you God used the show Blacklist on Netflix. In that dream, in the elevator full of my neighbors that could not get out because they were stranded between floors, basically speaking, stranded between walls, between the millennial reign of Jesus Christ, between now and then, and there's that 7-year tribulation. They're throwing the whole earth into the tribulation. That's what God is showing me. But guess who was in that lift? You know how Reddington in Blacklist is the father of Elizabeth Keane. He was in the lift, and in the first part, when I started this series, I explained, not series, but this particular portion of the series, I explained to you guys that Reddington in the show is this dude that because of him, Elizabeth Keane, no one can touch her, no one can hurt her. She is married to this dude that infiltrated her life, and Reddington is the reason why the guy gets exposed. Yet he was not in her life at the beginning part of it. She got adopted by another dude, yet Reddington rocked up later on in her life and displayed himself as her true father. Now, Reddington is an evil guy, he's a criminal in the show, but because I'm watching that show, and God tends to use movies and series that I have seen to give me more or less the idea of what he is saying, and I'm able to launder it with scripture enough to get the holy version of it. I was able to put the pieces of the puzzle together as to why he used Reddington from Blacklist in that show. He was in an elevator stranded full of people that could not get from floor to floor because some dude made it get stuck while I was on the outside and he tried to run away with me, and Reddington was in the lift. Reddington of Elizabeth Keane. And God was telling me, these people, no, never mind that first, okay? When I saw Reddington in my dream, literally I was watching this guy doing his thing in this building where he was manipulating things to make sure my neighbors are stuck in transit, right? And as I was all concerned for my neighbors, that I was very burdened for being stuck in this lift, I then saw Reddington in there, and all I could think in my mind was the Reddington of Indeed Waking Life in the show Blacklist. I was like, the guy in this lift that is stuck and stranded basically with all these other neighbors of mine has got so many prolific connections across the world that he's not the kind of person to get stuck indefinitely in a lift. And he has got, like I said, such a he's like Reddington. If you understand his character in Blacklist, it's almost as if though he's omniscient, not omniscient, sorry, but omnipresent. It's like there is nothing that can ever be done in this FBI circumstance and this life of Elizabeth Keane that he does not have first heads up on. That is who he is. But he also just so happens in the show to be the dad of Elizabeth Keane, the biological father, and he takes care of her through and through, right? God was saying to me, these people are busy dilly-dallying, walking up and down this earth, hurting my daughters, and in turn also hurting a whole society of people on earth that my church is burdened for, making sure that people can't enter the kingdom of heaven because they're stranded in between worlds. They're stuck in between the tribulation and the millennial reign of Jesus Christ, and the only thing that's going to enter them into heaven is me putting them through hardship so they can finally enter their home, which is in heaven. It was an apartment building. I told you guys about that in my first part. It was an apartment building that my neighbors were stuck in the lift concerning, and this lift was going up, but before it could get to the floor where they would go home out of heaven, they got stuck in the middle in transit. What this menacing Janus and Jambres epidemic on the earth is essentially doing, according to God, is it has caused the earth to be stuck in between decisions for God, such that all of the world, before they can go to heaven with God, are first going to have to endure a very hard tribulation to make it. They've put the world in a position to have a difficult time choosing Jesus. That's why I was burdened for them. But in the lift with my neighbors was Reddington, the character from Blacklist. And I've explained briefly to you what his character is in this part, but the grandest explanation of his character is in the earlier part where I started to explain this. God was showing me that Reddington is a sort of kind of representation of him, in the sense that these wicked men are dilly-dallying, prancing around in the world, blocking people from entering the kingdom of heaven, keeping them confused. They're in transit. Like if you are a woman waiting on the Lord for a husband and you have to wait 10 years until you are 40 and your womb is geriatric and it looks like there's nothing going on, there are people who are literally standing outside of your life watching you, if at all you're giving your testimony like I am, waiting to see if God is finally going to give you your dream come true. And so they, upon waiting, are essentially ones who, if at all you got delivered by God, might actually get redeemed by your story. David in one psalm says, God, for the sake, I don't know if it was in a psalm or one of the books where David actually has psalms in them, I stand corrected, right? But he says that God, for the sake of those who are looking at my life, rescue me from the pit, rescue me from this death that I'm facing, for the sake of people who are looking onto my case, because if I fall on the ground splat, they are going to be like, where is his God? So by blocking the testimonies of Christians from basically saying, I finally got my husband, and look, clean slate, both of us, bright wedding, we're both looking really great, and we've got these beautiful kids en route coming into our bellies, into my belly as a woman. Before you can even give your testimony of God finally giving you your husband, these people are blocking and trying to force themselves to be the husbands of women that don't belong to them, and so therefore tarnishing the testimony or the deliverance of saints that waited very long for God, saying that, oh my goodness, so you waited on Jesus for 10 years for a husband and this is what you get, some dude with 2 ex-wives and a bunch of kids. It's going to make us look as if God doesn't care about us, literally, to regard what it is that we've been asking him for, all the celibacy, the waiting, the staying away from sex despite knowing how good it is, all that for 10 years, so you can end up with some dude that throughout those 10 years when you were waiting was busy getting married to a second wife and divorcing her, and now he's coming into your life as a fornicator nochal. He's been also like fornicating, having sex even after divorcing his wife, and now he wants to come and take a woman that's been basically made a virgin again because she hasn't had sex in 12 years. That's how long I've been celibate, because I got saved in 2011 and it is 2023. It's going to be 12 years this year that I have not had sex, and I'm expected to be had by a man that just fornicated 2 months ago, just 2 months ago, with like a bunch of ex-wives, and you get my point. That is the kind of thing that will make people that have been looking at the witness of a good godly epistle, a living epistle of God, it's the kind of thing that will make people be like, Jesus Shmizas, don't come tell me about God, please. That woman waited so long, she was so glorious, she was so great, and she ended up married to some dude that beat her up until she died. She ended up married to some dude that disregarded her, some dude that kept on like sabotaging her life. She used to have a glorious, fabulous like apartment, and now she's living in some RDP house. Or go somewhere in Jeffela, go, what is this? Because she just had to have some kind of a semblance of a life. She can't get anything moving. Like, she still obviously looks cursed, clear. But hey, she's a baby mama of 3 to some dude that has literally put her in some government housing, when I never lived in government housing under my parents. Yet my husband, that's all he can afford for me. That is the kind of curse that people are trying to make look like these wicked men. They're trying to make it look like a blessing, because they will have put the woman in such dire strait with no love and care around her, that even just a severe compromise from a life that she knew as a child would like basically pale in comparison to the conditions she was living in prior to this guy rocking up in the picture. They put themselves in a position to rescue these women, and this activity has contributed to the effeminizing of the whole earth. It has contributed to the approval of a colorful agenda. This Janus and Jambres agenda, and trying to, like, society is made up of marriages. You all need to get that. Literally, it starts at a very rudimentary level. So if you mess with marriages, especially godly ones, you mess with the culture and the climate of society. You cause compromise across the board. You cause, like I said in earlier parts, CEOs of companies to certainly come up with a company strategy that is focused on nothing but the colorful agenda, even though your previous demographic that you were serving, your previous target audience that you were serving with your particular beer was male, hot-blooded, like hard-knock, patriotic American men, because your name of the company get bad. All of these, Budweiser, all of these issues that are going on in the world, the Lord is literally tying them into the messing up of relationships in the family unit, and it is because of the attempt to marry godly girls over to wicked men and vice versa. But largely it's always the godly girls that find themselves wed to horrific men, so that the last voice of reason and the last true helper suitables on the earth that can elevate men to the positions that they need to be with all the support they need in a loving, serving, comfortable, cushy home that is kept by a godly woman, that the man won't have any such support structure, and so all of society falls apart. All of society falls apart. They're trying to take wives like me away from men that need wives like me, and rather put them as slaves for men who feel entitled to wives like me, that they might just sit and relax and gather like beer bellies while a woman cooks and slaves and like literally works like a dog to serve a man that got you a man that got you by freezing your life conditions with your family, making sure that your uncle doesn't care about you anymore, making sure that your dad could not care less to acknowledge he ever had a daughter, making sure that your mother is prepared to take lobola from a man that's obviously a gangster. They do this to put themselves in a position to take wives that are supposed to be responsibly assisting to godly men as they so desperately need it, to rescue the world from the pit of hell, to go and evangelize, to go and make disciples of all nations, to go and pastor churches. They need godly women, but godly men are being compromised, caused to be drowsy under Jezebel women, and godly women are being made to wait until they're 40 before they can get married. And when they get married, they're finally settling because after all they are 40. And so decimation of the family structure, and so bring about the tribulation, why don't you? Literally, the activity of these ridiculous boys that have put witchcraft in my life has brought this calamity, this screeching halt of the entire planet. And you don't think this is the end of the world? Something so simple as a romance is bringing a screeching end to the earth as we know it. So the Reddington presence in the elevator, the presence of Reddington in the elevator was God showing me basically a father figure that adopts a daughter later on in life, much like the way that the Lord adopts all of his church later on in their earthly lives. They are born to other biological dads, but then the Lord adopts us later. The Father adopts us later. He is the father to the fatherless, guys. As in, I need to go and shower and end the day, but when I can't seal a message and finish it off, I get anxious. But it's already like 11 o'clock at night right now, so I'm thinking that maybe I need to come back and finish this whole speech tomorrow, because there are so many areas to this thing that I haven't even touched yet. I did let you guys know. I didn't even work out today, just trying to get this done. And I realized now that it's like literally 11 at night, I gotta go shower, I gotta eat, and I can't be here at 1 a.m. And there's more where they came from, this conversation. I'm gonna complete it tomorrow. So let me just seal this part, and then I'm gonna come back tomorrow and finish the ramifications that I have endured, that I have seen and witnessed, that are not just against my life, but against the country, that is South Africa and the world at large, because of this one little meager strategy by men who are selfish, they are greedy, and they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea what destruction and calamity they're causing on the earth. It is so far reaching. But to them, I just want the wife. And fine, I admit, when I was in my youth, I was dumb. I married bad girls, but now I really want a good girl, and I'm going to take care of her. You must understand, if you're not truly godly, even though you might have an intention to love a woman, you just won't manage, because demons are going to have a field day with you. They're going to possess you, and they're going to make sure you slap her silly until she dies. You can have all the intentions under heaven that you want. You can have, like, literally a desire to be better than what you were on your come up, but if you are not truly consecrated to God and you come into the life of a godly woman, the devil is going to use you mightily as a vessel, a tool of destruction against this female, the female of which is supposed to be the mother of lands. Do you understand? We are supposed to nurture babies that are going to be presidents. We are supposed to take care of entire societies that are going to one day become a thriving metropolis. We are supposed to make the breakfast for husbands that are going out there to preach and make disciples of all nations, snatching some even from the flames of hell. That's what a good wife is. She is the wind beneath the wings of that which holds this planet together with sticky tape. And when you take them and you marry them off to ungodly men, and you take godly men and you make them marry Jezebel women, you decimate all of that, and then you endure the tribulation. That's what's happening. So in resisting the devil and not wanting to compromise with a man, it's not that I am snooty, snobbish, and frankly way in over my head and waiting on this like thing in the sky that calls itself God. It is that the consequences are incredibly dire. They are far-reaching, they are extreme, and they are deep, and as well as they are broad. They have brought about the magnification of the alphabet agenda that is destroying everybody's lives across the show, that is also being coerced on a continent that doesn't want anything to do with it, and they're threatening it with financial aid by saying, we're going to starve you, Africa, if you don't take it in your stride. It all started literally with calamitized relations between men and women. And it all started with entitled men wanting good girls after a season of allowing themselves to be made like little girls that aren't running the show as they ought run them, because again, they've made themselves little girls. Those ramifications cause corruption in society. They cause predatory pricing. Guys, all of it is linked. And this is something that I made an observation of yesterday when I was purchasing the memory card that is 32 gig that I have to keep on taking out and taking. Yeah, all these things that have been happening are they're culminating, they're adding up in this one little issue between Adam and Eve, and a false Adam, like a scar. Frankly, if we're going to use the movie Lion King, this infiltration of bad men, Janus and Jambres, is like Scar in Lion King. The dude that's not supposed to be the real king, wanting to go and take a pride of females and make them his wives, like a whole bunch of ladies running the show as the dude that's not called to be the king. So because you are incompetent, given that competency is given by God, he's the one that raises up kings, given that you have put yourself in a position to be king, much like King Commodus in Maximus, go the movie Gladiator. You're not the real king, but then you run the show for a season and you feed people the blood they want to see until everybody sees right through you. These guys are exactly like Commodus in the movie Gladiator, that went and threw away banks, suffered to have no future and no life, Maximus, and made him a gladiator until he defeated him in the very Colosseum that he was made to fight, injured, against Commodus. If you go see the end of the movie Gladiator, you will know what I'm talking about. How it is that this wicked king got defeated by an injured man. Yeah, they are literally weakening the true called saints of God and trying to take their wives. They are weakening the true called men of God and taking their wives, decimating their testimonies because they are making them second and third wives, causing them to walk in adultery. That is what your Marcus Rogers is responsible for. And I'm not saying the guy's into witchcraft, but he is certainly irresponsible in the worst way. And these are the ramifications, and as a result, he's going to get left behind, but also with a chunk of people that would have gotten saved if they had seen Karabo get what she wanted from God, what she asked for. So the Lord is basically staying his hand from giving us what it is that we ask for in prayer, for the sake of the souls of those that have been prevented from entering heaven by these irresponsible men who are entitled to women that don't belong to them. You know, the guy that I dated was so arrogant that he told me that he asked God for a virgin when he was busy flirting with the girls in the office, kissing the girls and making them cry because his name was Georgie Porgy, or so he thought. He literally confessed to me that he asked God for a virgin when he was a player. A virgin, man, like a wicked, like rotten man, seeking the Lord's face for a woman that's never had sex. Well, a woman that has been celibate for 12 years might as well be a virgin. And these men who have been sleeping around all over the show, getting themselves a bunch of venereal diseases for which they have to take super antibiotics to kill super bugs in their bodies, then want to rock up and take a bride that's never had sex for 12 years. Imagine if I ended up HIV positive. What the heck? I waited for over a decade for a husband and I still got the disease. You know, the only way that would ever happen is if I married a man that tests negative on the wedding day, but somewhere inside the marriage tests positive and I don't find out, because he would never tell me that he cheated on me. I would be angry and probably suicidal. At who would I be angry? God, for doing what? Letting me marry a man that would easily just go and dive into a woman without even protection and then come back home and sleep with me, infect me with a disease, and now I gotta go take medication for the rest of my days and I can forget about having a third child now. That's what they're putting women in risk of. They're taking godly girls, giving them diseases inside marriage. They're marrying women for the third, fourth time, like literally, that have never been married, have never had children, and some of them get sick inside marriages because these guys don't stop cheating. They get flirted with in churches by little Jezebelian females that like the pastor. They have sex with like their staff, and nobody will ever tell them the pastor, and then next thing this woman has got a disease. And when she married him, she was a virgin. Literally, imagine marrying a man as a virgin, that's got like 2, in the case of Marcus Rogers, 3 ex-wives, a whole chunk of children, and then in the marriage somewhere along the way you end up HIV positive. Look, I'm not saying Marcus Rogers just cheats, but he's definitely compromised in the area of women. I would not trust him if I was that woman that he's married to today. I wouldn't. What in the world and the heaven would make me trust a man that could not keep his marriage aloft with 3 different, like, guys, you know, the first time you make a mistake, apparently that's what he calls it, I get it. The second time, but the third, fourth, what in the world? That's not a mistake. That's just a dude that is literally just trying to cover up his nonsense with the collar of a pastor. That's what's going on. We're gonna get made sick. The epidemic of HIV in this world, like, there is no disease I fear more than HIV. I have feared it ever since I started having sex. I have always feared HIV, and for me to end up with it would be literally a slap in the face, especially considering I managed to escape it despite my fornication historically. When I came to Christ, clean bill of health, still have it. 12 years later, have not fornicated, so therefore I definitely don't have it. There's no way that I could have gotten it. I don't remember a time of like taking drugs with a needle or anything like that, any other way that this thing could have ever come into me. So essentially right now I'm HIV negative, although I would test again with my future husband just to make sure, doubly sure, that, you know, nothing happened. I did not scratch myself and, you know, perhaps even get a blood transfusion, I don't remember, where an HIV positive person's blood touched mine. Yeah, I would definitely take a test. And for me to enter into a marriage, like, you know, hopping in there happily with a negative man, and then both of us are positive somewhere along the way because he couldn't keep it in his pants. If he could not keep it in throughout his marriages until they tore apart, why under heaven, now that he's in marriage number 3 with me, why would he then be faithful? Why in the world all of a sudden am I safe from HIV? Literally, when I came to Christ, I got relieved that I had escaped HIV because I realized I was in a place now where people don't fornicate anymore. I was in a place now where husbands fear God. And so cheating is not a thing. All my fear for HIV was always about my boyfriends, because I have never cheated, not even on one of them. It was always on them. Like, one dude went and impregnated another chick, and I thought he was gay. He was literally so flamboyant. He looked like he was on that somizi tip. Never under heaven thought that he would ever cheat on me, and he made some other chick pregnant. I was like, what, are you trying to prove your manhood? That dude, we were not even using protection, the 2 of us, because at the beginning of the relationship, we took a test. I was dumb. In the next relationship I was in, I also took a test in the beginning, and because we were negative, we didn't use protection. And for 5 whole years, we didn't use protection, even though twice I got evidences of the fact that he cheated on me. I risked my life. I never cheated on them, but I was always constantly facing the risk of getting infected by men that I don't cheat on. So if at all that was me back when I was in the world, of course you could imagine the level of security I felt when I came to Jesus. So for me to get deceived by a man that calls himself a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ, and then find myself HIV positive as a Christian, married to a man that professed Christ and ought therefore fear God. No, you know what's a rechte? It's a main chick. To call yourself a main chick as a Christian, goodness, far be it. It's women in the world that are content with being main chicks because the guy regards her more loftily than his side pieces. So to be a main chick, as a Christian woman, is a travesty and an abomination. The only way that would happen is if your man is still cheating on you because he's never been. Scandal went on right ahead to proliferate polygamy in a country that has got the highest HIV rate in the world, South Africa. And nobody rose up against it to complain about the narrative that is being pushed by the entertainment industry. We're in the last days. Men want to have their cake and eat it too, and women are the collateral damage. Far be it from God to let his daughters get AIDS. Far be it from God to let his daughters get super gonorrhea despite having had sex with no one but their husbands. Far be it from God to allow his daughters to basically take care on their dying beds. Men that have now got full-blown AIDS, but because the woman is taking care of her health better, and because the woman also got it lost, she is the one that has to take care of him in his sick bed. Far be it from a godly woman to go and take care on a hospice, basically last dying bed of an HIV positive, dying full-blown AIDS man that she married because she was desperate and 40, and no other man was coming inside, so she took him with all of his ex-wives and multiple kids. Far be it from God to allow Garabo to be the HIV positive wife of an HIV positive husband that is dying, that she is taking care of on his sick bed, who will then apologize to me only on his sick bed, and I will just have to be a godly woman about it and realize that, hey, in heaven there's no disease. Far be it from God to go and literally grab the future of a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed beautiful woman who was educated and make that the end of her life. That's literally what these men are trying to do. eternal. That's what these men are therefore bringing about as a result of that attempt. And that's the reason therefore also why the rapture is literally at the door. We are going home because the Lord intends to, what is the word that I'm looking for? Reward his daughters that waited in the millennial reign. Literally, that's all I have to say. God made it clear to me that he's going to reward his daughters who waited for husbands and didn't get them because of irresponsible men who allowed their patriarchy to be thrown out the door. And so now the world is being run by the prostitute on the many waters, lying on the beast. The Lord made it clear that he is going to bless them in the millennial reign of Jesus Christ. And he has told me that over and over and over again, but I have disregarded it because it just is too far-fetched in my mind to grab or grasp. How, God, are you going to bless me with the desires of my heart in being a mom and a wife in the millennial reign when I have an incorruptible body? And God was like, you're just going to have to wait for me to show you. All I could think about was how many women and men passed away in history that loved God before they got what they asked for in prayer. Men and women who died as teenagers before they could have children, before they could get married. Men and women who passed away at war because they were fighting for their countries, but they loved God and so therefore could not have the opportunity to marry. How many of them are in heaven today having had dreams to become husbands and wives, but weren't quite given enough of a life opportunity to do just that? Or even men and women that wanted to get married, served God all their lives, waited on him for husbands and wives, and they just never came until they got to a ripe old age and died. How many of them are there in heaven? All I could think about was, if the Lord says that ask for anything that you want in prayer and I will give it to you, when then is he going to give them their children that they asked for and their husbands and wives that they asked for? All I could think about was, even though God has not expressly stated that this is what's going to happen, he likely is saying that that's what will happen. That every man and every woman throughout the history of Christendom that has never gotten married, never had kids but wanted them, and they prayed fervently for them, no, I didn't give them a gift of singlehood. I gave them the gift of marriage in an incorruptible space where they can no longer be cheating, where they can no longer be falling, where they can no longer be capitulating to sorcery, where they can no longer be barrenness, where they can no longer be children born to disrespect parents, where there can no longer be any corruption. And they will be put together from different eras, ages, and generations, such that it would have been impossible for them to come together. Impossible for them to come together in this lifetime, seeing as the Karabo was born in 1984, and let's say his name is Johnny, was born in 1809. When would they ever come together, since they who it is that I have set apart from eternity past to be bespoke to one another, fashioned in my image for one another, to marry one another? When will, if at all, I set apart? If God puts it together, let no man separate. If at all Johnny was supposed to marry Karabo, at what stage? When he was born in 1800 and Karabo was born in 1984. It's all I could think about. That we are going to be given an Eden volume 2, but without the fall, where Adam and Eve are actually going to be able to have children in incorruptible bodies, without the birth of the pain of childbirth, without the sorrow of jealousy in marriages, without the sorrow of infidelity, death of spouses, so therefore being made a widow, without the sorrow. You get my point. I have had a dream of arriving in heaven in the rapture. I've communicated this in the past already, and when I got to heaven, everybody was celebrating. They were happy, wearing white robes, and I saw a guy across the room that when I looked at him, immediately feelings sparked up in both our hearts. That dude, I knew him in waking life, in the sense that I kept watching his channel on YouTube. He was very young, very, very young, like literally a good 20 years younger than me. I was like, there's no way I'd ever be attracted to that guy. And the Lord is like, it won't matter when you get to heaven. You're in your incorruptible bodies. You are going to be age appropriate for each other. There will be people that are literally thousands of years apart in chronological age according to the earth, but who will be perfect for each other based on how I formed them to think in their incorruptible bodies. And age won't matter. Literally, there will come a time when age ain't nothing but a number when it comes to bringing people together. The Lord intends to bless those Christians of his that never got to enjoy earthly marriage in the millennial reign. I believe it's what God is showing me. I believe it's what the Lord is showing me. I thoroughly believe it's what he's showing me. So that for me, maybe I'm busy trying to justify it or explain it away or make myself feel better for my sorrowful state and the fact that I don't have children and I still want to get married and whatnot. But I believe that's what God is showing me, that he has literally made find many of these, especially women, just sit around waiting, not getting husbands, not because he has abandoned them, but because he intends on giving them perfect marriages, because they waited literally that long. Especially people who imagine they had the gift of singleness, that did not marry at all and just served God all their lives. Some of them dying in sorrow because they never got to have kids. Jeremiah was one of them, just by the way. He was told he cannot get married and he was bereaved, was he not? He was sad because he wanted a wife, and God told him, no, you're going to have to be single for the rest of your days. I believe men like Jeremiah are going to get wives in the millennial reign because God answers prayer. He sees the desires of our heart. He does miraculous things, and he's the one that said, ask anything of me in prayer and I will give it to you. So what then for those who asked for husbands and didn't get them? Did the Lord lie? No. I believe the Lord will give them spouses. As for those who got married on this side, they will be able to continue to live with their families in the millennial reign. Like their kids will still be the kids that they had, if at all they got saved, because they already basically got what they asked for in prayer. But we will start from scratch. We are gonna get married. That's why every so often I'm scared, but then every so often I just stop being scared. It's because I've got cognitive dissonance concerning that. I'm not sure I believe it, but God keeps on repeating it so many times in my dreams that it appears it's what's happening. I keep on hearing that song, in the new millennium, na 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 na, over and over and over and over again in my head. In the new millennium. I also keep hearing this portion of the lyrics of Natasha Benningfield. Feel the rain on your skin. And I'm like, just that part. Feel the rain on your skin. Not the rest of the song. Just that part. And I'm like, rain, what does that mean? And God says the flood of Noah. There are going to be people that are going to feel the rain on their skin as opposed to it being a deluge. Long story short, the tribulation, those who are in heaven, they're going to feel the rain on their skin, like enjoying the rain after a season of drought. But for those who are on earth, it's going to be a flood. We're going home, guys. I don't know when. I also keep hearing from the Lord the closeness of what? The rapture, my marriage, my children, what? And God is just like, you are close. And I'm going to be finishing this series tomorrow because I want to explain to you all the other rapture related heavy suggestions that I got when I was sleeping in dreams. I want to explain that to you so that you can understand how much God is just hinting to me that we are going home, and that one of the biggest reasons why that is even being affected is because of how stuck and stranded many of his daughters, especially daughters, but sons too, in light of being able to live just any kind of semblance of a normal life here on earth. We are speaking rich men and Lazarus type vibes. Indeed, just like a man like Lazarus who never got to have children but be poverty stricken for the rest of his days. Where is his wife? Anyway, this might sound like I'm speaking heresy, but I'm just sharing prophecy. And if it doesn't come to pass, then you can call me a liar at that stage. But the things that ran up to it, led to it, are these indiscretions on the ground, on the part of men who want to call themselves godly but aren't. I told you that that dude that I liked at MTN that I used to work with, how it is that I always keep dreaming about him being in white robes. I think the Lord intends to rescue him by being left behind in the rapture. So that's why I keep seeing him in white robes, even though currently he's a flagrant heretic. He does not love God. I've also seen Marcus Rogers in white robes. Mike Todd, that random dude with the church that are busy doing secret seances, what is this, satanic seances on stage for apparently Easter. Yeah, even that guy, I see him sitting around ultimately acknowledging he was in no position to be a pastor and a preacher, but being quite the fervent disciple now that he's been left behind. I've also seen Joel Osteen repenting because he got left behind. Joel Osteen, yeah, I've seen him repenting because he got left behind. And you know what, with Joel Osteen, it makes sense why he would repent, because his dad apparently was very fervent for Jesus, so he probably prayed for his son, and his son has like tarried from the way of truth, and so the Lord probably intends to hear his father's prayers by leaving his boy behind until he realizes, oh my goodness, I did literally misled the whole planet and left them in the raft. I'm gonna come back and explain all that stuff tomorrow, guys, but right now I have to take a shower and call it a day, because literally there's more hours where all this came from. No need to do it all in one sit. Next part tomorrow.